A good day, ladies and gentlemen. Um, there is a debate worldwide whether there is a genocide in progress in South Africa. Um, and what is irritating me is that everybody has an opinion, but nobody uses the scientific method to establish whether there is a genocide or not. Um, it's actually very simple. You go to the definition of genocide, then you go to the facts in South Africa, you apply the facts to the definition, and you have an answer. So let's do that. Um, let's do that. So, first of all, I just I Google genocide definition. You get the textbook definition of a genocide, and let's read through it. Let's read through it. Genocide is defined as acts committed with the intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. This definition, established by the 1948 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, encompasses a range of acts, including killing, causing serious bodily or mental harm, and deliberately inflicting conditions of life that are likely to cause physical destruction. That is the definition. Then we must go to genocide stages. Now, you can see 10 stages of genocide discussed in various uh, websites. I find Wikipedia to be the easiest to follow. So let's go to the 10 stages of genocide in Wikipedia. It's all the same on all the websites. You can go to anyone. But here they are: classification, symbolization, discrimination, dehumanization, organization, um, polarization, preparation, persecution, extermination, and denial. Okay, so before we start analyzing, applying the facts in South Africa to these stages of genocide, I thought it will be a good idea to go to Genocide Watch. If you go to genocidewatch.com country pages South Africa, there is the URL. I'm just going to look at the conclusion. Stage 6 polarization. That is their opinion of South Africa at this point in time. Stage 6 polarization. There are stories there that you can go read on your own. That is their opinion, but we're going to analyze the stages ourselves to see what we think where South Africa is in the genocide. Okay, so let's start our scientific method of genocide in South Africa. Stage 1, classification. People are divided into them and us. Now, the situation in South Africa is this. In 1994, when apartheid ended and we negotiated a new constitution and we established a new state with the same name, but a new state. And the very most important thing that I remember about 1994 is that we are one nation, one people, and the color of the skin doesn't play a role anymore. They used to refer to us until today as the Rainbow Nation. So I accepted that and I underwrote to that. And in my mind, I became a South African like all other South Africans. Skin color doesn't play a role anymore, and we are just one nation. So, where are we standing today, 30 years later? I don't think I have to argue. I think it's obvious for everybody to see that South Africa is again consisting of more than one nation. At this point in time, it's black, mostly black versus white. But in South Africa, we also distinguish. It's not like America where you're either black or white. In South Africa, you can be colored. That is a mixed blood between black and white. And we also have a lot of Indians, which are also classified as Indian. So in South Africa, we recognize four races. But the divide in South Africa became between black and the rest. You're either black or you're not black enough. I had Indian clients telling me they apply for this and that government subsidies, but they're not black enough. So Indians and coloreds are not black enough. So South Africa became classified mainly as black or non-black. Um, and I don't have to argue that. It is obvious for everybody to know. It will become maybe more apparent as this video goes on if you uh, are hesitant about this. I'm just going to refer to two criteria. The one is the 140 or 170 or I don't know how many race-based laws that South Africa already have, much more than in the apartheid era, where there is institutional discrimination between white and black. Go fact check me. And statements by the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, statements where he referred to our people. He's talking about our people, referring exclusively to blacks. You can go watch his videos. You'll pick them up. Initially, I was shocked. Later, I realized that on his own statements, he's not my president. He sees himself as the president of black South Africans. On his own statement, he's not the president of white South Africans. He doesn't see himself as my president. If that is not classification, what is? Go fact check me. Go watch his videos. You'll see that. So classification, yes, there, 100%. Black and white, 100%. Symbolization. When combined with hatred, symbols may be forced upon unwilling members of pariah groups. And the hatred is also important. Hatred or hate is an intense negative emotional response towards certain people, things, or ideas. And so on and so on. We all know what hatred is. Now, I don't have to argue this. It's visible for the whole world to see. the hatred, the hate speech. Um, Julius Malema and the EFF, which is 10% of the South African population, 10% of parliament, openly singing in filled with people, kill the boer, kill the farmer. That is after he delivered a speech of how criminal whites are by stealing the land and uh, how the whites must be exterminated, not now, but maybe later. He'll have a speech in a stadium like that, and then they will sing "Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer," and that song uh, is sanctioned by the South African Constitutional Court. The Constitutional Court found that he has a constitutional right to sing that hate speech. Now, there are people who try to argue that you must see it in context. What context? Let me extend an invitation to you. I'm a farmer, I live on a farm. I invite you to come and sleep with me in my house one evening in my guest room. But we're not going to activate the security fence. We're not going to activate the alarm system. We're not going to activate the floodlights at night. We're going to remove the dogs so they can't bark. You're not going to be armed. Just come sleep with me one evening or a few nights. Come sleep there and feel what it feels like to stand on the receiving side of this and tell me you must see it in context. So um, the hatred is there absolutely. Uh, I was talking about Julius Malema. He represents 10% of the South African population. Then there's the MK party. They are 15%. They're even stronger. They represent 15% of the South African population in parliament. And all these people are members of parliament. Julius Malema and the EFF. This MK party is, as I said, 15% of parliament. One of them members of parliament with the name of Andile Nkitama, something like that. He's the one who stood. I think it was in a stadium. It wasn't in parliament. I think it was in a stadium somewhere. And told the world that for every black that dies, 5 whites will be killed. He'll kill the men, the women, the children, the dogs. He'll kill everything. Okay, so let's continue. So the hatred is there. Symbols at this point in time doesn't come through very strong. I just want to go back to the hate speech and incitement to violence by kill the boer, kill the farmer. Um, it is the EFF singing it. It's 10%. The MK they say other things. They are 15%, but the ANC itself um, doesn't see a problem with this, and they don't act against it. And even the Constitutional Court approved of it. So you're sitting with up to 70% South Africans who either clearly state their intention to kill white people or white farmers, or just is neutral about it. Don't don't act against the hate speech and the incitement to violence. 70%. That's a high number. That's a high population. Still with symbolization and hate speech. Um, the other day in the Oval Office, South African billionaire Anton Rupert made the statement that farm murders is just another crime. And he compared it to the crime on the Cape Flats. And he made the statement that the Democratic Alliance, which is the opposition party, is in charge of the Western Cape, which is true. The Cape Flats is in the Western Cape, which is true. And he said that's the highest crime rate in South Africa. So he's trying to play off and minimize the farm murders. Now, there are a few things about the crime in the Cape Flats. The one is um, that a crime is a national government responsibility, not a provincial government. In other words, the crime in the Cape Flats is still the ANC's problem. That's the first thing. The second thing is yes, the crime in the Cape Flats is normal crime. You will nowhere in Parliament or in stadiums in South Africa here kill the Cape, kill the Colour, kill the Cape Flats. No, no, it's just crime. There's nobody inciting it and cheering it on. So, no, Anton Rupert made a mistake. Farm murders is different. It is a genocide. It's an extermination. Um, let's move on to the discrimination. Law or cultural power excludes groups from full civil rights, segregation or apartheid laws, denial of voting rights. Um, we are all aware of the 140, 170 race-based laws in South Africa. Everything in South Africa is about skin color. Every job that you apply, it's not about merits. It's about race. So the discrimination is there. The discrimination is there. We look at dehumanization, the process, practice, or act of denying full humanity to others, and so on and so on. One group denies the humanity of the other group. Members of it are equated with animals, vermin, insect, excrement, or disease. You will find, especially on social media, that uh, black people that hate in these hate groups, they will refer to white people as Neanderthals. That's basically because research shows that I think white people has about 6% Neanderthals genes in them. Europeans, that's where it's coming from. So in these hate groups, they will refer to white people as Neanderthals. They will also refer to whites as white pigs. I don't know why white pigs, but they will. That's what they do. Um, and also there is a school in some South African universities that teaches that white people are not capable of Ubuntu. Now, what is Ubuntu? Ubuntu can be translated uh, as humanity of human-like, to be kind and human to other people. Now, because your skin is white, you do not have Ubuntu. Uh, that is dehumanization. Um, and there was one incident where one black, very ugly individual, ugly in the sense of his heart, he was on a podcast, a YouTube podcast, and he made statements that white people are subhuman. And I can't even remember the individual's name because he's such a horrible person. But it made headlines in South Africa. It made headlines in South Africa. White people are not human, and so on and so on. Um, he was reprimanded by the Human Rights Commission of South Africa, and he had to withdraw his statements. Okay, also very relevant to this dehumanization in South Africa is this slur that is thrown towards whites, that we are settlers and we must go back to the Netherlands, or we must swim to Australia, or we must take an aeroplane to America. We are not Africans, we are not South Africans because our skins are white. Um, this is actually worthy of a video on its own, but the history is that my ancestors arrived in the southern tip of Africa in 1652. Um, South Africa has been a wilderness and British territories and Boer republics until 1910. And in 1910, it became a single country. Um, and uh, the system of apartheid started in 1948 and it ended in 1994. Now, to call me a settler is dehumanization. That's what it's about. They're not serious. They're not seriously telling me I'm not an African. What they're trying to do is to dehumanize me because they want my assets. They want my assets. They want me, they're telling me I must leave the country with nothing. They want my assets. It's dehumanization. That's what it is. Um, they will call me a settler, and they have this chant, one settler, one bullet. I must endure that daily. One settler, one bullet. You're not a South African. You're not an African. You're white. You must go back to Europe. That's what they tell me. Dehumanization because they want my assets for free. The other slur that I must endure is that whites are land thieves. Uh, we live on stolen land. Again, it can be a video on its own. I'm not gonna. I have one whenever a black person make that statement on social media, I have one standard answer that I give him. A challenge. I tell him, you prove any white South African owns any stolen land, I give you 10 million rand. We take it to the world court. They never accept it. They never. I'm extending this challenge to anybody watching this video. If you can prove any white South Africans owns any stolen land, I will give you 10 million rand. We take it to the world court for decision. Um, it is not true, it's a lie, it is dehumanization. Every piece of land in South Africa owned by whites were acquired legally. Um, the few uh, pieces of land that was acquired in an illegal way during the apartheid era is addressed. There is the whole land issue was addressed and settled with the Restitution of Land Rights Act of 1994. That act settled the whole land issue. So to come now, uh, 30 years later, call me a land thief and trying to expropriate my land without compensation is untruthful. It's a it's just dehumanization and an attempt to score, to to take my assets without paying for it, just to try to steal my assets. This whole thing was settled in 1994. We agreed. We become one nation and we go forward as one nation. We agreed how the land issue shall be resolved. But because of the ANC's corruption and incompetence, these acts was never implemented properly. 90% of all land reform projects are a failure. And now, 30 years later, they want to renegade on the 1994 agreement that merged South Africa as one nation with the land issue be addressed by the Restitution of Land Rights Act. They want to renegade on that, and take, they want to take what is not theirs. They want to have it without payment. That's what they want to do. And that's why they're dehumanizing me by calling me a settler and a land thief. I dare you. Prove that. I give you 10 million rand. Let's go to the World Court. Okay. Yeah, and further on this land issue, I'm so disappointed when I watch mainstream media channels like Al Jazeera and these liberal mainstream channels like CNN and so on, these woke channels, and they report that 70 or 75% of South African farmland belongs to white South Africans. Uh, it disappoints me to see how these people blatantly lie. The truth is, white South Africans own about 22% of South Africa. The rest belongs to the government and black tribes, tribal lands, and so on. Uh, there's only one way to describe it: disappointment. Disappointment in the news media. Okay, that is the dehumanization. Organization. Genocide is always organized. Special army units or militias are often trained and armed. Uh, Organization at this point in time is not like government, military, and paramilitary and semi military groups and what you have in mind, militias and so on. No, that's not like that. There is organization, but it is more the criminal minded politicians that are leading the criminals. Typically, again, EFF, and they also have their they also have their uniform. While in Nazi Germany, it was what, the black shirts or whatever. These people are wearing red berets and red, and they are organizing. And what they will do, they will disrupt farming operations to the point that it become unsustainable, unprofitable. Uh, they will just simply either steal, just enter the property and steal crops and animals, slaughter animals on an organized way, um, and sell it like criminals, or just take it. Or they will come like when their trucks must come in and remove crops. They will put stones in the road and so on, and just make it difficult for the farming operation to continue. And when you go to the police will come and remove. And when the police turn their back, these people are back. The police, the the state participation in this can be said to be the police that are soft on crime. Uh, Politicians, these are, I'm talking about elected politicians, not only in parliament, but in local governments, and so on. Elected politicians, but they act as criminals and they have criminals supporting them. So, and the police is soft on crime. So you have this situation, and this is I'm talking specifically against commercial farmers. You're not. if you live in the city and your car gets stolen, so that is normal crime. I don't see any political agendas there and so on. That is criminal. But on commercial farms, there is a criminal element and a political agenda, as is in Parliament. I mean, this whole thing about expropriation without compensation is actually just criminal. Polarization. Extremists drive the groups apart. Leaders are arrested and murdered. Laws erode fundamental civil rights and liberties. Absolutely. Absolutely. Extremists drive groups apart. Um, one important thing about South Africa is there is no hate on ground level between people. I do not experience any hate by any black person when I move around in the streets of South Africa. They are all friendly. I don't experience any hate or racism from blacks on ground level in South Africa. And most whites, you can ask whites, they don't experience something like that. The hate and the polarization and the incitement to violence and the hate speech you find on social media and in parliament, not on ground level. Um, but if we must apply this polarization definition, extremist group drive the groups apart. Absolutely, yes, it's happening. Leaders are arrested and murdered. Um, I want to focus your attention to a few weeks or a month ago. There are white South Africans who are bringing this genocide to the attention of the world. Specifically, I refer to an organization called AfriForum, and their leaders is Kali Kriel. Ernst Roots was part of AfriForum. He has got its own organization, Lex Libertas, he calls it. And there's an individual by the name of Robert Hershoff, a well-known South African businessman, millionaire, um, who is bringing this genocide to the attention of the international community. And there was threats by the South African government. In fact, more than threats, they were charged. Like they were people like these people were charged with high treason because they told lies about South Africa to the world. They're telling lies about South Africa to the world. This MK party, who represents 15% in parliament, they laid a charge of high treason. And when the police were asked if they take this charge seriously, they said yes. We are very close to this. Leaders are arrested and murdered. We're very close to this. Very close to this. Laws erode fundamental rights and liberties. Well, this BEE laws erode the fundamental civil rights of white people. Uh, you know, the clearest one that one can bring in here, fundamental civil rights and liberties, is the right to associate. Now, there is a clause in the South African Constitution that guarantees cultural groups' right to associate, and there are a few small instances in South Africa where cultural groups exercise their right to associate, and specifically the most well known is the town of Orania, small little town with 2,000 citizens in the middle of nowhere in the desert, next to a huge river. That's where they get their life. That's their lifeline. But Again, these black fascist groups like the EFF and MK have got a huge problem with that, huge problem. And recently, again, had protests and whatever at the entrances of these places. And even the South African ANC government minister, was it Gwedi Mantashe? I can't remember which one, said that if he becomes president for 3 hours, he will immediately act against Orania. There's another place as well that the name I can't even remember. But so it's not only the EFF and MK, the ANC leaders as well. Again, it brings you to the 70%. Um, denies Afrikaners their basic civil right to associate. Um, Same with, I think we can put the Bella Act in here as well. The Bella Act, um, South African schools, the parents were in charge of the schools, and you had Afrikaans speaking schools and English speaking schools and so on. This is one of the most basic ways of defending and nurturing your culture and your language is in your schools. The ANC made a law, the Bella Act, which gave the government the right to intervene in these basic rights of what language you want to educate your child, what culture and you want to teach your child. Preparation. Mass killing is planned. Victims are identified separated because of their ethnic or religious identity. Again, if you look at Julius Malema, kill the farmer, kill the boer, you look at his statements in the court when he was interrogated by an advocate, where he stated that he's not calling for the extermination of whites yet now. One can say the preparation phase is there. Also, one of the major security forces that existed in South Africa was the commando system. It was a state led semi military citizen militia that reacted on crime. So if you have, especially in the um, countryside, the remote areas, it was an organized militia under oversight of the government. And if there's an incident of crime, the people in the area, the citizens immediately mobilized and act against the crime. That was the commando system. Now that has been abolished by the South African government, and you can ask yourself why. I mean, South Africa is a violent uh, uh, society. The crime is extremely high. That is what our president told President Trump the other day. But then they disbanded this commando system that protects farmers. And you can ask yourself why. I mean, all the government in South Africa have to do is to stop protecting the farmers. Then the criminals will do the rest. So, also now it's in Parliament. They're debating it now, and I can tell you it's going to go through. They're busy disarming private security companies because South Africa, every state organ is dilapidating, including the police. Um, so South African citizens rely heavily on private security, where if there's a crime, the private security is there 3 hours before the police is there. The private security do the patrolling of the area and everything. You pay them. You still pay the government the taxes, but you have to pay for your private security as well. That's everything in South Africa, including health, everything. But these things, the ANC government simply remove the protection of the citizens, and the criminals do the rest. Uh, so I in my opinion, the preparation is there at a low stage yet, but it's there. Let's move to the next one: persecution, expropriation, forced displacement, ghettos, concentration camps. Well, do I have to say anything? This new expropriation without compensation act that went through Parliament now in December 2023 made world headlines. World headlines. And the ANC can stand here and say, well, we're not expropriating. Yeah, they're not expropriating yet. But the act is there. As somebody, this Rob Hershoff said, um, the loaded gun is in the room and the children are running around. Still on the point of expropriation, there are videos, and it was played to Cyril Ramaphosa in the Oval Office a few weeks ago, a week or two ago, where Cyril Ramaphosa, President of South Africa, state that land must be expropriated without compensation and it must happen now. He stated it in so much words, it was played back to him in the Oval Office. So don't come with other stories. This is the intention. This is the intention. So, if we look at stage 8, persecution, expropriation, yes. Forced displacement, no. Ghettos, yes. White ghettos are coming up. Concentration camps, no. So at stage 8, we already have two of those criteria. Extermination. The important thing about extermination is that people confuse genocide with extermination. People will say, well, there's no genocide in South Africa. Having in mind extermination, there's no extermination in South Africa. Um, Extermination is one of the phases of genocide, as you see in this video. Now, let's see if there is an extermination in South Africa. The extermination in South Africa is not against the white population in general. The persecution and the other dehumanization and all the other things are against the white population in general in South Africa. But the extermination is against commercial farmers only. There's about 44,000 commercial farmers in South Africa. And this previous point that I discussed, where you simply remove the security of the area, the criminals will do the rest. You can go read the book. There's a book written by Ernst Roots. The name of the book is Kill the Boer. And it is about, and it proves the South African government complicity in the farm murders. So regarding this stage, this extermination stage, go read that book. So my conclusion here is that the extermination is against the farmers, commercial farmers specifically, around 44,000 of them. The extermination is not aimed, the other phases are against the white population in general, but the extermination is against the white farmers only. Denial, well, deny. Uh, isn't aren't they denying? They're denying. Absolutely, they deny. So there you have it. There you have it. The scientific method. Do you wanna do you wanna take me on this? If you want to take me on, please feel free. Comment down here. Now, this is a final statement I'm gonna make in this video. I want to ask the question: when does the international community act and do something about a genocide, extermination, or a threat of genocide and extermination? Do you wait, like happened in 1930s? Do you wait until it actually happens before you act? The signs are there. As Rob Hersov said in his one interview, South Africa has got a 1930s feel to it. What what are you gonna do? I'm sitting here in South Africa. I know what I'm doing. I'm thanking President Donald Trump of bringing this into the international arena. I'm thanking people like Donald Trump and Elon Musk, and we are very thankful for him for this. But the world must follow up on this. Are you going to sit there and wait until the barbarian with a machete stand in my door? I'm asking the international community to act. Thank you.